It appears that Marjorie Greene is more angry at mass shooting survivors than actual mass shootings. Interesting. So now on Sunday, Greene went after Parkland survivor and activist David Hogg. Now, sadly, that's not new for Marjorie Greene. She's been after Hogg for quite some time, tweeting at him and asking, hey, why didn't you schedule a time to come and talk to me? You know, come talk to me when you come to DC. In fact, she tweets this: I hear you and your girls are funded to come down. Come to town this week to once again try to manipulate some of the gutless, weak colleagues to vote for gun control that will violate our freedoms and leave Americans defenseless. I don't see you on my schedule. Why not? Yeah, why not indeed? That's a good question. I mean, who wouldn't want to talk to Marjorie Greene? Maybe you can talk about Jewish space lasers. Perhaps you can even talk about, I don't know, gazpacho.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
I don't know. You might even catch a couple of, fun slips like
Peachtree dish.
Who knows? Who knows what kind of fun you'll get talking to Marjorie Greene? Nonetheless, Hogg politely declined her request over social media, saying this: Congresswoman Greene, I'm more interested in protecting children and meeting common sense people. Again, since she is not exactly a common sense person, who are looking for reasonable solutions to stop children from dying. Don't really have any time to help you go viral for attacking survivors so you could fundraise. Respectfully, David. Greene then replied, you fundraise for a living. Let me just stop there. Isn't that not the pot calling the kettle? And again, I don't even mean that in like, oh, she's fundraising. No, that's literally most of what, unfortunately, that's what a lot of our Congress does. I mean, they spend hours and hours and hours on the phone begging their donors. So to say that, oh, you make your livelihood fundraising, Marjorie, what do? It's not like you have a job. You're not on in any of the committees. No, you have time to sit there and harass people, start fights with AOC, and do a podcast where you say insane things. So, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. Other than that stuff, probably fundraising. Oh, and buying stocks in the defense industry. Like Lockheed Martin. But hey, definitely not legislating. Definitely not worth anybody's time meeting with. She continues by saying, quote, if you wanted to fix it, you would discuss common sense solutions with me. Someone who has also been on lockdown as a student when the only madman with a gun is another student who wants to kill people. Not just bully my weak rhino colleagues. So now look at a couple of things. Obviously, Marjorie Greene has no intention of discussing actual solutions. No, of course not. Her ideas are more guns. Now, we've already seen more guns equals more gun deaths, equals more mass shootings. This is why the United States is the only developed country in the world that has as many mass shootings as we do. No other country has this. We have the problem. We have the problem. And then, of course, our other solutions are, well, put security guards in the schools. Parkland had a security guard in the school, armed, didn't work. The shooting in Buffalo had a security guard, didn't work. The most recent in Uvalde, again, you had school resource officers that were armed. You had a school ISD that were police officers also armed. And 19 children still died. 17 were wounded and 3 adults were killed. So her ideas don't seem to be working, but oh no, common sense ideas. Common sense. No, this is the Republican Party, okay? These are the people that believe, 44% of them, according to a recent poll, that mass shootings are just something that we're going to have to accept and live with. Sorry, can't do anything about it, except that every other country seems to have actually done something about it, except for us. But we can't do anything. Oh, no. They don't want to solve the problem because in reality, they don't see dead children as a problem. At least if they died of gun violence. Now, if you have an abortion, of course, that's when they see it's a problem, when you're preborn. But if you're already born and you die in a school shooting, well, that's just the price of freedom, folks. Not my problem. Oh, my colleague's getting shot? Not my problem. Also, Steve Scalise, who was shot in the hip by a guy who, by the way, could have been stopped through red flag laws. He had some numerous issues, brushes with law. But she says, not my problem. Touch my gun? Oh, well, touch my gun. Now we got a problem. So the Republican Party, not at all interested in any solutions. All she wants to do here is attack a survivor. Specifically, David Hogg, because she seems to have a personal beef with David Hogg. In fact, it's not the first time that these two have had a little bit of a run-in. In fact, we can go all the way back to 2018, before Marjorie Greene was even in Congress, to where she was basically following him around and harassing him. In fact, we've got the video. Take a look.
Why are you supporting red flag gun laws that attack our Second Amendment rights? And why are you using kids to get as a barrier? You are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights. You don't have anything to say for yourself? You can't defend your stance? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. Do you know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say. No words. So I'm walking. He's got nothing to say. Sad. That was David Hogg right there. David, we saw him inside the Senate building. He had 30 appointments where he ran around and got to talk to senators. I got to talk to none. He had media coverage all over the place. I had 0. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen. And I have nothing, but this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything.
Oh, I'm a gun owner and I have nothing, but this guy, he's got everything. Except for the friends that were killed during the massacre in Parkland. He doesn't have that. Oh, and by the way, this woman is now a United States Congresswoman, has all of this money, all of this power, and what does Hogg have now? Nothing. No movement on mass shootings whatsoever. No movement on trying to do any sort of common sense gun regulation. You realize that was 4 years ago that she was chasing David Hogg down the street. 4 years ago, and we have done absolutely nothing to do with gun violence. And of course, the insane things where she talks about, it's got the big liberal funding and George Soros and blah, 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 and all that insane stuff, right? Again, before she was a congresswoman, she also, by the way, back then, media had uncovered Facebook comments where she claimed that Parkland was a false flag. False flag. You know what a false flag is? It's where the government supposedly stages, in this case, a mass shooting and uses that to justify disarming American citizens. You know how many mass shootings we've had this year? 230. This year alone. We're in June. Now, again, the definition of mass shooting seems to vary depending on who's tracking it. So I'm going to use the definition here of 4 or more people, not including the shooter, being injured or killed in this event. When you look at that, there's an average of more than one of those a day. Over the weekend, there were 14. So on the day that she was tweeting at David Hogg, saying, why aren't you meeting with me to hear my insane ideas, which aren't actually real ideas, people were getting murdered by people with guns. In 2020, gun violence killed more children than car accidents. The number one cause of death for children. 65% of the firearm deaths, when it comes to children, are homicides. 35% were categorized as suicides. Going back to Marjorie Greene and all the nut jobs that think that this is just some way for the government to come in and take your guns, right? So now, if they're all false flags, or at least some of them, right? Kind of curious why all you so-called patriots aren't using the guns that you said you need to use against the government to protect the children. Hey, according to your own twisted logic, you think that it's the government that is staging all of these false flag attacks on schools, on Sandy Hook, on Parkland, on Uvalde. So in your logic, in your brain, you think that, oh no, it's not people who, just get a gun and randomly do random acts of violence. No, it's the government that is murdering all these children. Well, now, if you were a real patriot, if you actually give a damn about kids, well, then why aren't you grabbing your gun to go against the government? I mean, you said, this is their logic, not mine. You say that you need your gun to protect against the government. Well, if you think that this is a false flag and all these shootings are false flags to take your guns, then why aren't you using the guns to protect the children against the government? Why? You can't answer that, can you? Because you have absolutely no logical consistency. You're a coward. That's what you are. You're a coward that's cosplaying and clinging to your gun. Now, of course, none of that's true. This is not a false flag. But you don't care. Because logic doesn't matter to you. Only emotion, only the feelings that you get from holding a gun. Whatever feeling that stirs inside of you, or wherever that happens to stir from, doesn't really matter to us. You know why? Because children are being murdered. Real, living children are being murdered. Not to mention adults, people everywhere. And this doesn't happen anywhere else except for the United States. And again, it's always because of the guns. People get their hands on these high-powered weapons, and then they use them to devastating effect against the rest of us. Look, it's not the government that's killing us. It's not the government killing the kids. It is these people that get these high-powered weapons that are protected by Marjorie Greene and the rest of these greedy, corrupt politicians that continue to take money from the gun lobby and the gun manufacturers.